Have you ever wondered what people did before money? It seems so simple today, doesn't it? We just tap a card or hand over a few coins. But long ago in Korea, it was a completely different world. Imagine you are a farmer who has grown a lot of rice. You have more rice than your family can eat, but you need some strong cloth to make new clothes for the winter. What do? You can't just go to a store. Instead, you would find someone who makes cloth and trade your extra rice for their fabric. This system is called barter. It was the first kind of economy in ancient Korea. This way of trading worked, but it wasn't always easy. What if the cloth maker didn't need any rice? You would have to find something else they wanted, or find another person to trade with. It could get very complicated. People traded all sorts of things. Farmers would offer grain, like rice and barley. Fishermen would trade dried fish from the sea. Craftsmen might offer tools, pottery, or woven baskets. Each item had a value, but that value could change depending on who you were trading with and what they needed at that moment. It was a constant negotiation, a dance of needs and wants. As societies grew larger and more complex, barter started to become a problem. Imagine trying to build a great king's tomb or pay soldiers. You couldn't just give everyone a sack of rice. It was heavy and difficult to store. People needed something that was easier to carry, something that everyone agreed had value. This is where the idea of money begins to take shape. For a while, certain goods became a kind of early money. Things like grain, fine silk cloth, and even special knives were used as a standard for trade because they were always in demand. They were a step up from simple bartering. So, this was the world of ancient Korea before coins. It was a place built on direct exchange and trust. People traded the fruits of their labor directly with one another. A handful of rice for a piece of pottery. A bundle of hemp for a sharp tool. It was a simple system for a simpler time. But as Korea's kingdoms grew, and their connections with the outside world expanded, a new and revolutionary idea was about to arrive. This new idea would come in the form of small, round pieces of metal. It would change everything about how people lived, worked, and traded. The big change came from Korea's powerful neighbor, China. For centuries, China had been making and using coins. These weren't like the coins we use today. They were often shaped like other things, such as knives or spades, before they settled on the round shape with a square hole in the middle. This design was very clever. The round shape represented the heavens, and the square hole represented the earth. More practically, the hole allowed people to string many coins together, making them easier to carry and count. It was a brilliant and simple solution for trade. Sometime before the Three Kingdoms period, these Chinese coins started to find their way into the Korean peninsula. Merchants and travelers brought them over. At first, they were probably just interesting objects from a foreign land. But people quickly saw how useful they were. Instead of carrying heavy bags of grain, you could carry a string of coins. This made trading much easier, especially over long distances. The most common early Chinese coins found in Korea are called banliang and wuju coins. Archaeologists have dug them up at ancient sites, showing us that trade between Korea and China was happening very early on. The arrival of these coins was a huge influence. Korean leaders and thinkers saw how a standardized currency could help them manage their kingdoms. With coins, they could collect taxes more easily. They could pay soldiers and government officials a set wage. It gave rulers more control over the economy. The idea of money, represented by these small metal discs, was revolutionary. It moved the economy away from the unpredictable nature of bartering and toward a more organized and stable system. The Chinese coins provided a perfect model for what a currency could be. Even though Chinese coins were being used, they weren't an official Korean currency. They were a foreign money used for convenience. Think of it like using American dollars in another country today. People accept them because they know they have value. But the dream of making a uniquely Korean coin was born during this time. The kingdoms of Korea saw what was possible. They learned from the Chinese model and began to think about how they could create their own money for their own people. The seeds of a native Korean currency had been planted. The Three Kingdoms period, from about 57 BC to 668 AD, was a time of great conflict and cultural growth in Korea. The kingdoms of Goguryeo, Baekje, and Silla were rivals, each with its own unique culture and ambitions. During this time, the use of Chinese coins continued, especially among the elite and for international trade. However, for most everyday people, bartering with goods like grain and cloth was still the most common way to get what they needed. Coins were not yet a part of daily life for the average person. They were something special, used by merchants and nobles. The kingdoms of Goguryeo and Baekje were in close contact with China, so it is very likely that they used Chinese coins extensively in their economies. Historical records are a bit sparse on the details, but archaeological finds have confirmed that these coins were present. Imagine a Baekje diplomat traveling to China, using Chinese coins to purchase rare silks and books, or a Goguryeo general paying for supplies with a string of currency. This shows that the concept of a monetary economy was understood and used by the ruling classes, even if it hadn't filtered down to the villages yet. So, did any of the three kingdoms make their own coins? This is a fascinating question for historians. There are some ancient records that suggest Goguryeo or Baekje may have attempted to mint their own currency, but no definitive examples have ever been found. It's like a historical mystery. Perhaps they made coins that were later melted down, or maybe the records are talking about something else entirely. For now, we can only say that while they used coins, we have no physical proof that they minted their own. The idea was there, but the execution remains a mystery. The real story of the first Korean coin begins in the Third Kingdom, Silla. Silla was located in the southeastern part of the peninsula, a bit farther from the main trade routes with China. Perhaps this is why they felt a stronger need to create their own standard of value. As Silla grew in power and eventually unified the peninsula, this need became even greater. The stage was set for a major milestone in Korean history: the minting of the very first official coin of Korea. The era of just using foreign money was about to end, and a new chapter was about to begin. After unified Silla, the Goryeo dynasty from 918 to 1392 came to power. The Goryeo rulers were very ambitious. They wanted to build a strong, centralized state with a sophisticated culture and a powerful economy. A key part of this plan was to create a truly national currency system. They knew that relying on barter and foreign coins was not enough for the advanced kingdom they wanted to build. So, in 996, during the reign of King Seongjong, Goryeo minted its very first coins. These were iron coins called Gyeonwon Jungbo. It was a huge moment in Korean economic history. However, the first attempt didn't go as smoothly as planned. People were used to trading with goods like rice and cloth. They trusted a sack of grain more than they trusted these new, unfamiliar iron coins. The government tried very hard to encourage people to use them. They even issued orders and offered rewards. But the public was resistant, and the coins didn't circulate widely. It was a classic case of old habits dying hard. The government had the right idea, but changing the mindset of an entire nation was a difficult and slow process that would take centuries. Despite the initial setbacks, the Goryeo government didn't give up. They kept trying. In the 12th century, they introduced several other types of coins. One famous example was the Samhan Tongbo. They also experimented with different materials. Besides iron, they made coins from bronze and even silver. The most interesting of these were the silver vases called Yunbyong or Hwalgu. These weren't round coins, but were shaped like the Korean peninsula itself. They were used for high-value transactions among the aristocracy. Imagine paying for a large estate with a beautiful silver vase instead of a bag of coins. Ultimately, the Goryeo dynasty's dream of a coin-based economy was only partially successful. Coins were used by the government and the upper classes, but barter remained dominant among the common people right until the end of the dynasty. The government's efforts were persistent, but they couldn't fully overcome the people's deep-rooted preference for tangible goods. Nevertheless, Goryeo laid the essential groundwork. They established the principle of a state-issued currency and experimented with different forms and materials, providing valuable lessons for the dynasty that would follow. When the Joseon dynasty began in 1392, they inherited Goryeo's economic challenges. The early Joseon kings really wanted to establish a monetary economy, and, interestingly, they even tried something very modern for their time: paper money. The first paper money, called Jowa, was introduced in the early 15th century. But just like Goryeo's iron coins, people honestly didn't trust it. Paper had no value on its own, and the government's backing just wasn't enough to convince the public. So, the experiment failed, and the government went back to the drawing board, once again relying on cloth and grain as the main standards of exchange. For nearly 200 years, the Joseon government struggled with this problem. They made several attempts to introduce copper coins, but, well, none of them really took hold. The breakthrough finally came in 1678, during the reign of King Sukjong. This is when the most famous and successful coin in Korean history was introduced, the Sangpyeong Tongbo. The name means always even currency, which was a promise of stability and fairness. This coin was different. The government was truly determined to make it work this time. They set up mints all over the country and promoted its use heavily. The Sangpyeong Tongbo became a phenomenal success. For the first time in Korean history, a coin was used by everyone, from high-ranking officials in the capital to farmers in remote villages. It was the standard currency of Korea for over 200 years. The design was simple, a round coin with a square hole, with the 4 characters of its name around the hole. On the back, a character often indicated which mint had made the coin. It became so common that the word for money itself, don, actually came from the character jeon used for coins. As time went on, the government needed higher value coins. In the 19th century, a powerful regent named Hungseon Daewanggun introduced a new, large coin called the Dangbakjeon. It was supposed to be worth 100 times the value of a regular Sangpyeong Tongbo, but it wasn't made of 100 times more copper. This caused massive inflation and economic chaos. People lost faith in the currency, and the experiment turned out to be a disaster. It really showed the dangers of mismanaging a currency system. Despite this hiccup, the era of the Sangpyeong Tongbo had firmly established coins at the heart of Korean economic life. The late 19th century was a time of immense change for Korea. The Joseon dynasty was weakening, and pressures from foreign powers like Japan, China, and Russia were, well, really growing. To survive, King Gojong declared the founding of the Korean Empire in 1897. This was a bold statement of independence and a commitment to modernization. A key part of this modernization effort was reforming the country's currency. The old Sangpyeong Tongbo and the disastrous Dangbakjeon were symbols of the past. The empire needed a new, modern currency that could compete on the world stage. A major step was the adoption of modern minting technology. The government imported steam-powered coining presses from Germany. This was a giant leap forward from the old method of casting coins by hand in molds. The new machines could produce perfectly uniform, high-quality coins quickly and efficiently. The first modern mint was established in Incheon and later moved to Yongsan in Seoul. This technological upgrade was not just about making better coins. It was a symbol of Korea's determination to embrace modern industry and stand shoulder to shoulder with other advanced nations. The new coins looked completely different from their predecessors. They did not have the traditional square hole. Instead, they were solid discs with intricate designs, much like the Western coins of the era. The denominations were also new. The currency system was reformed based on a silver standard, with the main unit called the yang. Coins were issued in denominations like pun, jeon, and hwan. The designs were beautiful and symbolic, often featuring a dragon, which represented the emperor, and a plum blossom, the symbol of the imperial family. These coins were a proud declaration of the new empire's identity. However, this era of monetary independence was tragically short-lived. The Korean Empire was under intense pressure from a rapidly expanding Japan. Japan sought to control Korea's economy as a stepping stone to controlling the country itself. They pushed for currency reforms that would align Korea's money with the Japanese yen. In 1905, a new currency based on the won, modeled after the Japanese yen, was introduced, and the beautiful dragon-adorned coins of the empire were gradually replaced. The dream of a modern, independent Korean currency was slipping away. In 1910, Japan formally annexed Korea, beginning a dark period of colonial rule that would last for 35 years. One of the first things the Japanese colonial government did was take complete control of the currency. The Korean Empire's money was completely phased out. The Bank of Korea, which had been established by Koreans, was renamed the Bank of Chosen. Chosen was the Japanese name for Korea, and was put under direct Japanese control. All decisions about money were now made in Tokyo, not Seoul. The Korean currency had lost its independence entirely. During this period, the coins circulating in Korea were based on the Japanese yen. The unit of currency was still called the won in Korean, but it was equivalent to the yen, and the coins were minted by the Japanese mint in Osaka. The designs were stripped of all Korean symbols. The proud dragon and plum blossom of the empire were gone. Instead, the coins featured designs that were either neutral, like Paulownia flowers, or explicitly Japanese. The currency in people's pockets was a constant, daily reminder that their country was no longer their own. As World War II intensified, Japan's economy came under immense strain. Metals like copper, nickel, and bronze were desperately needed for the war effort, to make weapons, ships, and ammunition. As a result, the quality and materials of the coins began to change drastically. New coins were made from cheaper metals, like aluminum or tin. In the final years of the war, Japan even issued crude, reddish-brown coins made from a type of clay. These pottery coins were a stark symbol of the desperation and economic collapse of the Japanese Empire. When Japan surrendered in 1945, ending its colonial rule, the Korean economy was in shambles. The currency system was based on a worthless Japanese yen, and hyperinflation was rampant. The country was free, but it faced the monumental task of rebuilding everything from scratch. One of the most urgent tasks was to create a new currency for a new, independent Korea. The 35-year period of using Japanese coins was over, but the economic scars would take a long time to heal. It was time for Korea to once again create its own money. After liberation in 1945, Korea's joy was short-lived. The country was soon divided into two zones of influence, the Soviet-backed North and the US-backed South. This division eventually hardened into two separate states, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea in the north and the Republic of Korea in the south. With this political split came a monetary one. Each Korea had to create its own currency system from the ground up, and their coins would come to reflect their very different paths and ideologies. In South Korea, the first coins were issued by the Bank of Korea in 1959. The currency unit was the hwan. These early coins featured the first president of South Korea, Syngman Rhee. However, after a military coup in 1961 and major currency reform in 1962, the won was reintroduced as the official currency, at a rate of 10 hwan to 1 won. The coins we use in South Korea today were first introduced in the 1960s and 1970s. The designs celebrate Korean history and nature. The 10 won coin features Dabotap Pagoda, the 50 won shows a stalk of rice, the 100 won features the great Admiral Yi Sun-sin, and the 500 won coin depicts a crane. North Korea also introduced its own currency, also called the won, in 1947. The designs of North Korean coins are, unsurprisingly, very different from those in the South. Early coins and banknotes often featured images of workers, farmers, and soldiers, reflecting the country's socialist ideology. Later designs prominently featured the national emblem and the name of the central bank. Unlike South Korean coins, which are made for a vibrant market economy, North Korean coins have often played a more limited role due to the country's centrally planned and often struggling economy. Getting a complete picture of their coinage can be difficult for the outside world. Comparing the coins of the two Koreas is like looking at a story of the division itself. South Korean coins, with their images of historical heroes and symbols of prosperity, reflect a nation proud of its past and confident in its capitalist economy. North Korean coins, with their focus on state symbols and revolutionary themes, reflect a society built on a very different set of principles. The small metal discs in the pockets of people on either side of the 38th parallel tell a powerful story of a once unified nation that has traveled down two very different roads for over 70 years. Today, in 2025, the coins of South Korea are an everyday part of life, but their story doesn't end there. The Bank of Korea also creates special coins that are not meant for buying snacks or riding the bus. These are called commemorative coins. They are minted to celebrate important national events, honor significant historical figures, or showcase Korea's unique culture and nature. For example, South Korea has issued beautiful series of coins for the Olympic Games it has hosted, for FIFA World Cups, and to celebrate its UNESCO World Heritage Sites. These coins are miniature works of art that tell a story. In addition to commemorative coins, South Korea has also entered the world of bullion coins. These are coins made of precious metals like gold and silver, and their value is based on the weight of the metal itself. They are bought by investors and collectors around the world. The most famous Korean bullion series is the Chiwoo Cheonwang series, which features a legendary figure from Korean mythology, a god of war. Another popular series is the Zaisin, which features the 12 guardians of the zodiac. These coins are a way for Korea to project its culture and mythology onto the global stage. From simple barter to high-tech bullion, the history of Korean coins is a mirror that reflects the history of the nation itself. Every change in the coins, from the arrival of Chinese currency to the struggles of the Goryeo kings to the success of the Sangpyeong Tongbo, tells us something about the economy, politics, and identity of that era. The loss of a national currency under Japanese rule shows the pain of colonization, while the emergence of two different currencies in the north and south tells the story of national division. The journey of these small metal objects is the journey of the Korean people. So, the next time you hold a coin in your hand, take a closer look. A 101 coin isn't just worth 101. It carries the image of Admiral Yi Sun-sin, a hero who saved the nation. It represents a stable modern economy built from the ashes of war. It is connected to a long line of coins stretching back over 1,000 years to the very first Gyeonwon Yongbo. These coins are more than just money. They are pocket-sized pieces of history, symbols of resilience, and a source of national pride. They are a testament to Korea's incredible journey,